Merhaba. First of all, sorry again for my Turkish that is non-existent, despite the fact that we're here for 5 years. But luckily I have my Turkish team helping me out with that. I'm super excited to be here. It's great to be here right after the coffee and tea break, so I hope everyone had enough caffeine, is pumped up. I just heard from the Webrazzi guys that the slides might load a bit longer. It's a lot of data in there, which is actually my topic also today that I'll be talking about. 3.5%, I think a lot of you might know what this number means. It's actually the share of e-commerce in Turkey. Which obviously is not massive, really. When you look at, the offline, and when you look at malls, for instance, I just went myself just around the corner to Canyon yesterday again. They're full, a lot of people are going in there still. And just the past 10 years, there have been so many malls built that it literally multiplied it by 10. So in the next 2.5, 3 years, you have another 50 malls or plus built in Turkey. So it looks like, offline is doing super well. It's dominating. You might think, the worlds are still clearly separated. A lot of you here in the room are obviously successful, online players, e-commerce. So you think maybe two things. Online is dominating. Offline is dominating. Online and offline are still, two separate worlds. You guys are growing in the online space, but everything is more or less settled. It's actually not true. And we have been seeing already a lot of changes over the past years. This year, next year, is actually the time when things are getting together. So there's dramatic change happening. Some of it you might have seen, might have noticed already. Some of it is literally happening in the background. The consumers are changing, obviously, as well. And that is creating a lot of disruption. And this is what I want to talk to you today. So let's take a look at literally just a little bit more than 15 years ago, right? Most of the big players in the Turkish e-commerce market haven't been live at that point. Some of them just 1 or 2 years before that were still in their nascent phase. A few of them have been launched and founded a few years later. No smartphones, no tablets, no social media. So when it comes to commerce, to shopping, you still clearly had two separate worlds. If you wanted to buy something, most of you went offline into a store, did your purchase there, that's it. A few crazy, nerdy people were, brave enough to go online and buy or try to buy something, waiting days or weeks until it got delivered maybe, and hopefully it was what they have ordered initially. When you look at today, obviously, and that's not rocket science, the picture looks completely different. You have a lot more people online, you have a lot more online usage, so people spending a lot more time online. However, what is happening is that most of these users online are consuming. They're consuming media, they're reading, they're learning, reading news, social media, etc. So when you look at the two numbers on the bottom, the 5.6 and the 1.4, I do the crazy math for you, it's 7%. That 7% is literally out of the whole time spent online, what people spend to actually shop and do commerce. So it's a tiny fraction. And out of this tiny fraction, the 1.4, which makes 20%, is happening on Amazon. These are US numbers. So 20% of the whole shopping time people spend on Amazon. Another thing that you see also is people using different devices. We have, seen that coming over the past years with the rise of mobile, tablets as well, etc. And when it comes to commerce, people are increasingly using multiple devices throughout their journey. From the point of having an interest in the product, doing the research until they buy something. And in Turkey, almost 40% of the people that are buying something have used at least one or more devices before they made the purchase. So they have used a mobile or a smartphone, a tablet, before they might have gone on their desktop, on their laptop, to actually buy something. So what does that mean? For commerce, for retailers, for brands, it's becoming increasingly difficult to actually catch their customers, to understand where they are, what they're doing, what their interests are. And it's becoming a lot more difficult with your digital storefront as an e-commerce player to make yourself aware to the consumers and deliver a message that ideally leads also to, a purchase. So all of that, obviously, means a lot of data behind it, a lot of information about the consumers, your potential customers, where they are, which devices, what they're interested in, etc. So a lot of data. However, the shopper in the center of this now, driving a lot of the changes, the challenges right now. The shopper is becoming increasingly demanding and more empowered also through the new type of devices. And it's a lot harder to know your customer. The big tech giants like Google, Facebook, etc., they're obviously seeing a lot of the time spent online from those users. They're gathering a lot more data that they're, doing a good job, obviously, and making more profits out of that. So it's not only harder to know, but it's also harder to reach, again, because they're switching the media, the devices. Again, I come to that later, even offline, online, when it comes to commerce. And it's harder to have access to them. And then, obviously, as the third point, harder to inspire. What does that mean? Again, I mean, clearly for a commerce player, it means harder to get them engaged and maybe ultimately resulting in a sale. And again, to make one thing clear, in terms of access to that data of your customer or your potential customer, what I found a very interesting number from the US again, 70% of all shopping searches, shopping-related searches, product searches, are starting and happening on Amazon, not on Google, not somewhere else. So whenever someone is interested in a product and making a purchase, they go on Amazon and actually use the search function there first. Again, this is powerful data and information about the consumers, potentially your customers as well, and this is type of data that you don't have, that you don't access. So, what that means is also that you see already a lot of change happening, and you see across the globe, actually, different players from offline and online kind of dropping the E, which means it's crazy to think about e-commerce, online and offline, because the consumers are changing it already. They are, they have merged the two worlds already. And the ones that are, innovating right now have understood that they need to cross beyond the barriers and actually, have it one commerce system and not two walled gardens and silos. Just a few examples. You look at, someone like Emar, for instance. I just was surprised to see them when I arrived at Atatürk Airport, a massive billboard from Emar advertising a new Emar mall in Istanbul. Emar is one of the biggest developers in Dubai, and they are owning the biggest malls, Dubai Mall, the biggest mall in the world, etc. Their head company, Alaba, is actually the biggest investor in the biggest e-commerce project right now in the Middle East. So they are stepping from pure offline, brick and mortar, into online. You look at Zalando, I assume a lot of you know them. They kind of failed at some point with the Rocket Internet here in Turkey because of very strong local players. But Zalando are the ones that are now also communicating and thinking about opening flagship stores. So a pure online player, on the other hand, thinking about moving offline as well to offer that sort of seamless experience to their consumers. Because again, they don't stay only in one of the other worlds. Again, Amazon, were starting to make acquisitions as a pure online player of like offline companies to step into that world as well. So looking at all of that, right? So mentioning again offline, online, so omni-channel, the empowered customer and consumer, fragmented the people using different devices, being online a lot, but only very little attention to shopping still. It means, a lot of challenges and a lot of trouble as well. However, at the same time, and that's why I'm personally super excited when I look at my clients around the globe as well, it means also a great opportunity for innovation, as long as you understand those changes as early as possible and adapt to them. So, in the end, the three strategies here to lead this transformation, if you don't want to be pushed and be kind of losing, but leading ahead, is about connectivity. So connect truly the two worlds of offline and online. There's different players, right? Obviously, you have players already that are maybe coming from brick and mortar. They have an online presence, but I have clients already as well that they still have two different teams that are not even talking to each other. So it's one customer, one consumer that actually looks at their website, goes offline to buy, and they don't share that information. In many cases, obviously, you're still mainly focused on offline or you're focused on online. You don't have an offline presence, but again, you have customers coming to your site that still might go offline to buy something. And all of this is where you need to start connecting and trying to connect to the two worlds, also in a marketing sense. It's about building the relationships. So I talked about this, a customer journey, a shopper journey is becoming a lot more complex and fragmented. And you need to build the relationship throughout this journey. You need to ideally be in contact with your customer from the first touch point until the last, and not only at a few, because then you're missing the connectivity and you're missing information as well. And the third that we haven't covered so far is measurement. This is key, is being able to measure the true performance, which means not only from one single marketing campaign, but also to measure which activity, which initiative actually led to the sales. So you start doing, and you're doing a lot of different marketing campaigns through different channels. What we already know is that there is a lot more happening behind, and a pure online campaign can help drive even offline sales, but you don't know that today in most of the cases. But you want to know because you spent money, for instance, on an online campaign. It helped you to make a sale offline, and if you know this, you can actually start investing more into the online channel, etc. So it's really about measuring performance and at the end, attribution behind it. If you do that well, what does that mean? Is that you, at the end of the day, deliver relevant messages to the customers and to the consumers. And this is a key point as well. What I mentioned earlier, a lot of time spent online, limited time with shopping. They're swamped with content, swamped with advertising. So you have to be even more relevant. You ideally need to understand what is next? What does your customer want next? What are they interested in? And this, again, then is about prediction. But it's about understanding a bit of the history, having data of this customer's shopper journey. Again, it's important that you are able to reach your customer in the moment and not 10 minutes after, 1 hour or a day after, and actually be able to have that connection through the different type of channels and different devices that your customers are using today. So we have done a study with more than 10,000 customers, and it just actually shows, again, what I've mentioned as well. What we are always talking about, offline, online, your customers are living it. They have merged it. For them, those worlds are more or less becoming one world. Two numbers that I found very interesting is the 74% that say, I absolutely look forward to go shopping in a store, so offline. So that desire and interest is still there. However, 62% of them also say, when I am going to a store, I also use my phone to research a product while I'm in the store. And this is one of the things that is happening already that is not that obvious and transparent to everyone. And which is, however, having a big impact. And if you know this, if you know it's the same customer, ideally you know the guy is in the store right now, you can communicate and connect with this customer at that time and, you know, send a relevant message over their phone, a relevant ad, etc. Again, the problem is, and this is based on another study, we have done a broad study together with Forbes this year to understand, you know, how marketing executives around the globe are thinking, what their concerns are and their problems. And something I've slightly mentioned earlier is there is a lot of data, but you have a few big tech giants that are collecting data, that are managing it, that are managing even and ruling the commerce. Just think about it, right? Like, would you say that you bought something from a retailer, XYZ, through Amazon, or did you buy something on Amazon? You say you buy something on Amazon, but there's retailers behind. So the problem is that those retailers are losing the connection to their customers. They're losing the information about them, which means at the end the relevant data as well. And this is exactly also the result that this shows, where the marketing executives around the globe are saying we are concerned that we are losing the connection. And majority of them say that we are losing the information about our customers, we are losing the control of our products as well that are offered, and we are being dictated certain rules through these sales channels. So we are losing the control. So again, all of that, means a big challenge, right? So you as, individual players, as mainly, predominantly, maybe still e-commerce players, you look at your own ecosystem, your own silo, more or less. But, when you look globally, I've seen a lot of clients obviously being very successful, still growing. They're trying to, hire great talents, also more related to data, etc., processing the data. Technology is another aspect. But to be honest, when you look at global big tech giants that have a massive ecosystem, the bigger they get, the more scalable and the more data they have. And just look again at the US, and I think this is fairly relevant for Turkey because this is just about to happen. Amazon gets 53 cents of every new dollar spent in e-commerce online. So more than half of every e-commerce dollar spent is actually happening on Amazon. And I mean, you look at the US, you have massive retailers and e-commerce players, and all of them together get less than one player gets. So the question is really, how do you compete from now on? How do you deal with this? With all the data, the technology needed, the access to the data, the ever more demanding consumers. And again, obviously, it's a lot about trying to understand that there is a change happening right now, and to be literally willed to adapt to it. So the bright future, we have spoken about the challenges and commerce. We at Criteo, again, see that literally it's becoming its own marketing channel, and it's becoming its own ecosystem. We have been lucky enough over almost the past decade to be sort of the neutral player in the middle, working globally with the biggest e-commerce players, with the biggest publishers directly, with big brands. However, until now, every one of our clients have more or less kept their information and their data separately in a silo, not wanting to share it, because they were fearing that competitors in this system would gain benefits out of it. This is the fundamental change that is happening right now, and where we literally see a massive opportunity for everyone. So again, these are a few results out of this Forbes study, where again, we have asked very openly marketing executives, if you would share, and sharing your data in an ecosystem with everyone that is also part of that ecosystem, what would that mean? And interestingly, most of them were very positive about it, saying that they would see and expect increased revenue and profits and even customer satisfaction, because at some point when you share data, when you have more information about your customers, you're able again to deliver a lot more relevant marketing messaging to your customers at the right time. Coming to one of my last slides, just what it means. And even myself, when I looked at this for the first time in terms of numbers, just at Criteo, what we have today is a massive ecosystem on its own. So we are tracking more than $550 billion in e-commerce transactions every year, which is almost twice as much of the volume that you see within the whole global Amazon ecosystem. So we have a theoretical massive ecosystem already with 700 million active online shoppers, and I'm not the technical guy, but like 600 terabyte of shopper data every day that we collect and process and activate. Make that usable for our clients as well. So this is a massive amount of data, a massive amount of users already existing. And what we now have been doing and started is literally building this ecosystem, saying, guys, dear clients, you are all great, but you're even greater once you get together into an open, transparent ecosystem where you put in data, but also you gain a lot more data out of it. So to give you an example in this matter, that was in Germany, the biggest e-commerce retailer only has 3% unique cookies, right? So unique, that only they know. If they put in that information, 3%, they gain 97% out of this ecosystem community, so they gain a lot more. And that's the idea behind it. Stop thinking in silos and sort of working against each other. Open up and collaborate. And I think in Turkey, it's just spot on in the right time, where you see some of those, big tech giants that obviously are doing an amazing job, stepping in, launching, and it's the right time for you to, start with this, and at the end, finishing up, it's literally about collaboration. So, let's collaborate. You should collaborate, and that enables you literally to, have this seamless, connection to your customers, being able to deliver more relevant ads, and at the end of the day, even finding new customers, prospects that you haven't seen so far. Thank you very much.